As I've gotten older, it's become more and more important to me that I support my immune system and digestion. I'm always looking for a supplement that's not only good for my body, but tastes good too. That's where Equilibria Daily Nutri-Greens comes in. Equilibria is a woman-owned wellness brand with unique science-backed products that help bring your mind and body back into harmony. Daily Nutri-Greens contain an immune antioxidant and detox blend, along with prebiotics, probiotics, and over 35 fruits and vegetables. These greens are great because they're the quickest way to fill in your daily nutritional gaps, and it tastes good. Equilibria makes it easy to meet your nutritional goals. You can subscribe so you don't have to worry about running out, and you get 25% off each month. Head to myeq.com and use code RAIN for 15% off Equilibria's Daily Nutri-Greens and much more. That's myeq.com and use code RAIN at checkout for 15% off site-wide today. I think all of us can agree that getting older means changes are in store. While I may look like I'm in my 20s, you guys know the truth and my body is changing, and I'm always learning what it wants. Whether you're in your early 20s and experiencing changes in your menstrual cycle, or your age is a little bit higher and you're nearing perimenopause or menopause, we should be talking about it. There shouldn't be any shame in looking for ways to support our body through changes and help ourselves through difficult times. Happy Mammoth, the company that created Hormone Harmony, is dedicated to making women's lives easier, and that means using only science-backed ingredients that have been proven to work for women. They make no compromise when it comes to quality, and it shows. Hormone Harmony isn't just for menopause. Any woman with symptoms of hormonal imbalances can take it. It's perfect for symptoms that put a woman's life on hold. Things like hot flashes and night sweats, racing thoughts and low moods, poor sleep and feeling tired all the time, and occasional bloating and gas. And the biggest benefit, women say feeling like myself again. That's what women mention over and over in Hormone Harmony reviews. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com just by using the code RAIN at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code RAIN for 15% off today.
This is Murder in the Rain, where each week Emily Rowney, Alicia Holland, and Josh McCullough tell true crime stories of the Pacific Northwest. Murder in the Rain contains graphic content. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the update episode for July 2024. We've got a lot of stories to get to, and we'll be starting with Emily, who will talk about alleged serial killer Jesse Calhoun's first court appearance, the creeper Lake Oswego dad, the latest Olympic scandal, and new inquiries toward Matthew Perry's death. Josh has an update about an infamous Canadian. He'll share how pig farmer and serial killer Robert Pickton met a worthy demise, and I'll give a sentencing update to the Alaska SD card case and a killer who is no longer behind bars because he's dead.
We've discussed the potential Oregon serial killer Jesse Calhoun in several of our Crime and Updates episodes. As a reminder, Calhoun stands accused of murdering at least 3 women from the Portland area: Joanna Speaks, Bridget Webster, and Charity Perry. Calhoun had been in prison previously, but was let out in 2021 after helping to fight the 2020 wildfires. He was let out early. The women's bodies were found in rapid succession after the discovery of the body of Kristen Smith in February of 2023. Police are still investigating her murder, but Calhoun is the primary person of interest. Joanna Speaks' body was found in April near an abandoned barn in Ridgefield, Washington. Later that month, Charity Perry's body was found in Ainsworth State Park. Days later, also in April, Bridget Webster's body was found on Harmony Road in Polk County near Wilhelmina. Another victim that we're waiting to hear if Calhoun will be officially charged for her murder is Ashley Reel, whose body was found in May of 2023. She had previously dated Jesse Calhoun and had even filed a domestic violence complaint against him. In our last update episode, I mentioned Calhoun was finally indicted for the deaths of Speaks, Webster, and Perry. Well, since then, he's made his first court appearance. On June 5th, 2024, he went to court, stood before a judge, and pleaded not guilty to 6 charges against him, 3 counts of second-degree murder and 3 counts of abuse of a corpse. He didn't utter a single word in court. He will be back in court on July 19th, so we should have another update for you soon.
3 updates ago, I reminded you of the murders of Kathleen Jo Henry and Veronica Abachuk, women who I spoke of originally in the episode Tough Alaska Chick. A notable piece of evidence was an SD card that had first been reported as being found on the side of the road. As alleged murderer Bryan Steven Smith went to trial, we learned the card had actually been stolen by a witness, a woman who had been hired as a sex worker by BSS. During that update, I hadn't realized that only a day or so before, the trial had come to an end. Bryan Steven Smith was found guilty on all 14 counts. They included, but were not limited to, substantial physical torture regarding Kathleen Jo Henry's murder, which had been shown to the jury thanks to the SD card. Some other charges were sexual assault in the second degree, tampering with evidence, misconduct involving a corpse, and second and first degree murder. Adding to his woes, South African Bryan is facing more charges and even deportation. After he was found guilty, federal prosecutors filed charges against him for unlawful procurement of naturalization and unlawful procurement of naturalization by an ineligible person. These charges go back to 2019 when Bryan was being interviewed for his citizenship application. Apparently, one of the questions is, have you killed, badly hurt, or sexually assaulted another person or been involved in a crime? Which, let's be honest, is a little bit of a flawed and ridiculous question.
I mean, I'm going to answer that.
I really would love to know if they've ever had someone admit in that moment, oh, well, yeah, I killed my wife back at home, but that's why I'm coming in.
Is that there so that they can burn people later or get them?
Well, honestly, that's my next sentence.
Well,
is that perhaps that question is in place for people, number one, if they're honest enough to answer it, or for people like Bryan, like you're saying, Josh, where they can be charged later. So you might recall it was Bryan's own confession to the police that led them to Veronica's body. She had been killed in 2018. Kathleen Jo had been killed in 2019. So by the time Bryan had applied, he was a murderer. Now that he's convicted for those murders, the charges regarding the application could be held up. Another nail in the citizenship coffin is that the U.S. requires the applicant to be of good moral character, which is also kind of funny since assholes are born every minute. No one tracks that. So it all seems a little flawed. If Bryan is convicted for the unlawful naturalization, his citizenship could be revoked, and he could be sent back to South Africa, where hopefully he would serve out the sentence that is set to be handed down July 12th and 19th. For the murder of Veronica Abachuk, Bryan is facing 30 to 99 years. Because of the aggravating circumstances surrounding Kathleen Jo Henry's murder, he's expected to receive the mandatory 99 years. I will keep you posted in a future update as to how long Bryan Steven Smith will be behind bars and in what country he'll be doing so.
Last update, I shared an LO Crime Beat story about Michael Maiden, the Lake Oswego, Oregon dad who drugged a group of 12-year-olds with benzodiazepine in their mango smoothies at his own daughter's birthday sleepover. Well, I have an update. On Monday, June 10th, 2024, Michael Maiden accepted a plea deal. If you recall, I mentioned that he was being charged with 3 felony counts for causing another person to ingest a controlled substance, 3 felony counts for applying a Schedule IV controlled substance to a minor, and 3 misdemeanor counts of delivering a Schedule IV controlled substance to a minor. In exchange for his plea deal of guilty for 3 felony charges of causing another person to ingest a controlled substance, the other charges were dropped.
No.
Yeah. I made a video on TikTok, and a couple of people thought maybe it's because the DA felt like they could prove those charges. And normally I might agree with that, but the other charges that had to do with them being minors, which was easy to prove
Yeah.
because they're 12.
They're minors.
Yeah. So I honestly think they just went with a plea deal that they thought he would accept so they could avoid a trial.
Which this feels like another case that in 10 years we're going to talk about. Oh, he was arrested and charged with this very alarming red
Mhm.
flag of a crime. And now it has led to something worse.
I agree. And he's the type of person, like, think what you want, but he makes me feel like he could move to another country where he could do this a little more openly
right.
or something. I don't know.
We should set up a Google alert for that man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Add it to the list.
Yeah.
So he was sentenced. Hold on to your butts.
Oh, boy.
He gets 2 whole years in prison.
That'll teach him.
I would really like to hear what the families of the girls think about this. But I mean, it is great to spare them a trial, but 2 years? Come on.
I feel like he'll learn a few lessons in prison.
I hope so.
Oh, yeah. Especially when they find out why he's there.
Does anyone have any friends in the Oregon prison system by chance?
A pen pal,
Um,
a pen enemy.
It's difficult because, yes, on paper, that is a crime that the time seems appropriate, if that makes sense. Like, oh, he just slipped something in a drink, which isn't nothing, but I understand judicially, I suppose, that that's where it falls. But it just sucks so bad that it can't be looked at a bigger picture to say, look at what this dude did, though.
The
and
implications.
The implications, exactly. And that sucks that that can't be part of the measurement.
Mm-hmm.
Given what it was, let's hope that was his first time trying that.
I really hope so.
And he got busted and he is scared straight. And now those girls know, as scary as that might have been, at least nothing really horrible happened. And now they know.
Well, except for everyone in your school probably knows what happened to you. And
Well, yeah, I just mean as far as like no one was sexually assaulted or.
I agree with that. But I think there are going to be lasting
Oh, definitely.
issues
Definitely.
for them. And that poor girl, that being her father,
Ugh,
I just
awful.
can't imagine. But I will say, yes, let's imagine best case scenario. That's the first time he's ever done anything like that. He really has consequences. Like his
yeah.
family left him.
Yeah, you said the wife filed for divorce, right?
Yes, she
Okay,
has full
thank
custody
goodness.
of
Oh,
kids.
good.
They're divorced. He now lives in Washington. I mean, there are consequences, and he tried to take his own life because of them. So it's not perfect for him, but still, 2 years, and I know it's not Minority Report. We can't like
I know.
solve the crime before it happens, but come on,
But when
he
you
had
have,
intent.
yes.
We know what he wanted to do.
Yeah. Ugh, that's awful.
So, segue.
About how are you going to segue? We'll do a musical.
No, we'll
interlude.
say, Lego crime beat, Lego crime beat,
Lego
crime beat.
I've got some Canadian news for you.
Canadian news.
Oh, you heard my
Canadian
cousin's getting
news.
married?
Oh,
Congratulations to your cousin in Canada. The end came for Robert Pickton on May 31st this year, and it was sharp. At the time of the assault on May 19th, which took his life nearly 2 weeks later, Pickton was an inmate at the Port Cartier Correctional Institution in Quebec. He was 74 and serving a life sentence after a conviction on 6 counts of second-degree murder. It is known but could not be proved in court that he was the culprit of more than 24 murders. The partial remains of 33 women were found on his farm. Nicknamed the Butcher or the Pig Farmer Killer, most fans of true crime already know of the man and his crimes, so quickly, for those who don't, Robert Pickton was a third-generation pig farmer from Port Coquitlam near Vancouver, BC. He became independently wealthy after he and his siblings sold most of the family's pig farm in the mid-90s. He was left with a 6.5-acre plot of land, which would become the largest crime scene in Canadian history, at a $70 million cost. The investigation took 18 months, and police would eventually collect 200,000 DNA samples at the site.
Jeez.
Whoa.
That is a lot of samples. I wonder how long it takes to test those.
They didn't test all of them.
That's why, yeah, they didn't need to probably. Once you have enough evidence to get someone for life, I imagine they put a little
Yeah.
hiatus on the rest of it.
And at the end of this, I have an update about the evidence that they have.
Oh.
Picton's victim pool was Vancouver's downtown east side, an area with a high population of hard drug users, sex workers, and those living in poverty. Picton could scoop someone up anytime he liked, and their disappearances were unlikely to set off alarms. Many of the women killed by the pig farmer were indigenous, and par for the course, their disappearances were disregarded by law enforcement. In February of 2002, a truck driver for the Pictons reported that Robert had illegal guns on his farm, and a police raid ensued. From the Vancouver Sun, Picton's case was so horrific it spawned 2 major missing women inquiries, which analyzed how police failed to investigate and society failed to care about these vulnerable women. The Assembly of First Nations announced this week that only 2 of the 231 recommendations stemming from the national inquiry have been fully implemented. When the national inquiry concluded in 2019, after gathering evidence from 1,500 victims and their families, it declared the violence against Indigenous women and girls a genocide. Picton was arrested on February 22, 2002, and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. During the first half of April, 4 further murder charges were laid. By May 2005, the number was 27, and thought to be as high as 65. While in police custody, Picton would admit to an undercover cop that he'd murdered 49 women. He explained to the officer, dressed as a fellow detainee, that he hoped to make his kill count an even 50, but he'd become sloppy in covering his tracks, hence the arrest. To conceal his crimes, it was found that Picton fed the bodies of the women he killed to his pigs. It was also released to the public that health officials believed the butcher had blended human meat with his pork before selling it to the community. December 9, 2007, Picton was found guilty on 6 counts of second-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years, the harshest punishment available. From CTV, quote, given credit for pretrial custody following his arrest in 2002, Picton became eligible for day parole in February with eligibility for full parole starting in 2027. And that was an article from December of 2023. Marnie Frey is one of 6 confirmed victims of Robert Picton, along with Serena Abbotsway, Mona Lee Wilson, Andrea Josbury, Brenda Ann Wolfe, and Georgina Papine. Marnie's father and stepmother, Rick and Lynn Frey, spoke with CTV about the death of Robert Picton, in which, quote, a 51-year-old fellow inmate stabbed Picton in the head with a broken broom or broom-like handle. The 74-year-old Picton was put in a medically induced coma. He died on 31st May. Rick Frey, given this information by his attorney, relayed to the interviewer, quote, the guy that assaulted him stabbed him first with a toothbrush in the neck, and then he broke a broom handle. And when you break something like a broom handle, you always get a sharp end. And so he took the sharp end and he stuck it into his nose, up into his skull. Kind of a gross way to go, but, there is no good way to go, I guess. From a June 2024 Vancouver Sun article, quote, victims' families and their advocates say Picton's death makes it even more important to continue their fight for justice for the women that he was not tried in court of slaying, despite forensic proof they had been on his killing fields. Some are battling in court to stop the RCMP from destroying 14,000 pieces of evidence seized from the farm, such as clothing, shoes, and furniture, arguing it should be preserved for future investigations.
Why would you just destroy it?
Well, the RCMP say the evidence is no longer needed because officers have exhausted all investigative leads. The majority of the items have no known owner, and they've kept photographs of everything. Families and their advocates, though, argue the pieces of evidence should be kept in case advances in forensic technology could link them to a victim or another suspect in the future.
Can you imagine if they hadn't done that before with all the advances we've made now with DNA? I mean, some didn't, but a lot of cases are solved because they had the forethought.
And that just doesn't make sense why they would even want to, because you obviously have unsolved crimes. Even if you have the guy, you don't know who the victim is. And that shit makes me crazy when it's like, oh, well, wash your hands. We got the bad guy. And it's like, but what about...
It's always money. It's always money to store it, money to test it.
Even with Homer Jackson, it's like, I can't find anything about Essie Jackson's case because they decided he was the guy who did it, but they didn't bring the charges. So it's just floating in this realm of nothingness. I don't get, like, what is the benefit except for money? Ugh, sick.
The application to destroy the evidence will be discussed in court later this month. An online petition to preserve the items has collected more than 13,000 signatures. It's a change.org petition you can go to. It's called In Honor of Murdered and Disappeared Women, a call to preserve evidence in Picton case. or you can just search, Google Robert Pickton evidence petition and sign the petition. I did it.
Definitely.
You should do it.
I put change.org Pickton and it pulled it up.
Yep.
And
Very
I'm
easy to
signing it
sign.
right now.
Wonderful. And I have an organization here you can look up if you want to donate or get involved with them. It's called Justice for Girls. Their website is justiceforgirls.org. And from the website, Justice for Girls is a Canadian nonprofit organization and registered charity that promotes equality, freedom from violence and colonialism, and the health and well-being of teenage girls who live in poverty. So you can go there and donate. And I think we should set up a recurring donation with them if that's...
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. And we'll talk about
From
that.
Our Patreon stuff.
That's right. We're going to donate every month to those gals and girls. So that's it. Hopefully
What a
the
horrible
Mounties
case.
will think better of what they're doing. Hopefully that petition will cause some movement with it.
Can you really not find an organization that's willing? If you have all these people that are even putting together a petition, do you not have a person or an organization that's willing to store that stuff or willing to document it or take all of, you know what I mean?
I know.
There's
You
no
think
one that
there's an
can-
organization that would volunteer storage for that?
Or the technology gets better and you can use smaller amounts of DNA to be able to process it or test it. And then you can say, oh, we found that this person, they aren't with us anymore, but at least we know it happened.
And we've seen that happen. So I don't know why you would
Yeah.
want to risk that.
That's awful.
disappointing.
You want the phone number for the Mounties?
To call them?
Yeah, I have the phone number right here.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention
Some
that
people
part.
like to do petitions.
Yeah.
Some people call.
Yes. I don't know how to call a Canadian number, but it's plus, whatever that is, +1 250 474 2264. That's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
We could Google it and then put the actual number.
That is the number 12504. What do you have to do
No,
something
the
different for?
the plus whatever
Oh.
for Canada. I'm sure there is one, right?
I don't know. You can call them at 1250 474 2264.
I posted about this next story on our Instagram way back in 2021, but I wanted to make sure everyone had heard the news. Back in January 2020, in my episode MIA, I covered the story of Mia Zapata, a singer in Seattle who was on the edge of stardom before she was randomly attacked, beaten, and strangled to death on July 7th, 1993. Her murderer was caught 10 years later when DNA was collected in Florida, where he was arrested for another crime, leading to his arrest for Mia's death. For the entire story, you can listen to MIA for free on our Patreon or on our YouTube. The man charged and eventually found guilty of Mia's murder was Jesus Mezquia. Jesus was convicted in 2004, had that conviction overturned in 2005, but the appeals came to an end in 2009 when his 37-year sentence was reinstated. On January 21st, 2021, just 17 years into those 37, Jesus Mezquia, at age 66, passed away in a Pierce County, Washington hospital. A cause of death has not been listed, and I could not find one on records anywhere. That's it for that update. Just wanted to share that they caught the guy, and he died in a hospital. And I don't know anything about his health, but it makes you wonder, 66 years old, having been in prison for a while, and in 2021, when COVID was kind of at its peak and he was in the hospital. So,
Oh, is it the thing where they don't have to say?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
prisons don't.
yeah. So, no idea. I don't know if it was an altercation like with Pickton or if it was a health thing during COVID or something else he had going on.
Yeah, that episode is one that I still think about. It's the one I believe I reflect on the most still.
Really?
I think it's because of the music and her voice. Usually we don't get to
Oh,
see.
there's like more of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can really hear her talent, and just everything everyone said about her was
Yeah.
incredible. So
Yeah, again, for those that don't know the case, she was in a grunge punk band called the Gits, and they were in the Seattle area at the same time as everything else that was really taking off. So it's an interesting story. I certainly think of it not just necessarily when I'm wearing headphones or out and about, but just how much more you have to be on alert just kind of all the time, because she was just walking home from a bar with headphones in, and that was it. So it's a sad lesson to take away, but maybe it's helped protect other people, someone that didn't ever think like, oh, I can't just wear my headphones out or be looking at my phone or distracted somehow. So it's a sad one.
These days, we're not strangers to America being the butt of every joke. Why, just watching our presidential debate would inspire shock and awe that we are stuck dealing with this in the States, but probably more pity. Well, today I'm here to criticize the Netherlands, and in particular, the Dutch Olympic Committee and the Dutch Volleyball Association. Steven van de Velde is a 29-year-old beach volleyball player. He was born in August of 1994 in The Hague, Netherlands, and stands a whopping 6.5 feet tall. So, of course, he was drawn to the sport. Steven won the under-20 Dutch national championships for two men's beach volleyball in 2011. He represented the Netherlands in the 2015 European Games, and he finished third in the 2018 FIVB Beach Volleyball World Tour. But the man is really known for something else. In 2014, when he was 19 years old, he traveled to Milton Keynes, England, which is about 50 miles or 80 kilometers northwest of London. He was going on a holiday of sorts, one where he met a girl that he had been talking to online. Unfortunately, this girl was 12 years old, and he was keenly aware of that. He planned his trip around a time when her mother would be out of the house. He then supplied her with alcohol and raped her multiple times. He then went on his jolly way back to the Netherlands. Eventually, he was arrested for this crime and extradited to the United Kingdom, where he would face the consequences. He ended up pleading guilty to 3 counts of rape while in court there, and the judge made it very clear how he felt by saying, quote, "Your hopes of representing your country, meaning as an Olympic athlete, now lie in a shattered dream." He was placed on the UK's violent sex offender registry and sent to prison for 4 years. After serving a single year, he was released and given back to the Netherlands. Now, his argument to why he did such a heinous act, let me read a quote. "I made that choice in my life when I wasn't ready. I was a teenager still figuring things out. I was sort of lost." Later, he told the Dutch News that it was, quote, "the biggest mistake of my life. And nobody would deny that. I can't do anything about it anymore. I cannot reverse it, and I will have to bear the consequences." Here's the thing. What consequences? Sure, he may have been called a sex monster pedophile in the news, but the Dutch Volleyball Association let him go right back and pick up his career as a pro athlete. And here's why people are pissed.
Oh, my God.
Van de Velde and his 2 men's beach volleyball partner qualified for the Olympics, and the Dutch Olympic Committee and the Dutch Volleyball Association are okay with it. They're sending him to the Paris Olympics to represent the Netherlands.
Wow.
This man raped a child and is representing his country.
And he was how old?
He was 19. He knew better. She was 12, and she told him flat out, "I am 12.
Wow.
I'm sure you can imagine he's getting ripped to shreds on TikTok. People are disgusted. They're angry, especially when you look at our American track runner, Sha'Carri Richardson, who was dropped by Team USA for smoking weed, a legal drug, where she was from, and it isn't a performance enhancer.
Not at all. And her mother had died.
Yeah.
She still ran the numbers.
So I know it's up to the country and the organization, but why would you willingly put someone like that to represent your freaking country? Because they're good at sports?
The Olympics
Cool.
are so corrupt and gross, but I also love them because of the people. Like, I want to support Sha'Carri. It's a very tough, it's kind of like FIFA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to watch the World Cup or whatever,
You have to put up with the
yeah,
dark sides of
But
things.
why would they think for 1 sec, I guess, to get the gold medal or whatever, but to say this is our representative? How
I
long ago
know.
was this? When was he 19, I guess?
2014.
I am from Holland. Isn't that weird?
I can't imagine sending someone like that to represent a country.
No.
I think they were like, well, he's so good, we want to win. I'm sure there are other beach volleyball players that are great. And also don't punish his partner, but still, like, that's really disturbing to me that someone can serve time for that heinous of a crime and be allowed in the Olympics when you can't. Some people can't even get a job in an office.
Yeah.
Serving time, and then he's going back to serving volleyballs?
Yeah. That's Not okay.
Mm-mm.
He is married with a child. His wife is Kim van de Velde. She's a German volleyball player, and her background is psychology, and she had actually trained to be a police officer. So it's very interesting to
Ooh.
me that she would end up with someone like him.
What a household.
Yeah. So
Do they have children?
yes,
Definitely.
I said that.
The U.S., we do that with football players and basketball players where they get arrested for
guess.
beating their partners or drunk driving or whatever.
It's money.
and
It's always money.
so rarely they're punished. It's like only if it makes the news do they have a suspension or something. Like, oh, this guy was waving a gun around again on TikTok, so we had to do something. But other times when it slips through the cracks, it's like, oh, yeah, just let him play because he'll win.
I have to hope the Olympics as an organization may have some sort of reason to block it. I doubt it, but it's just so depressing for that girl. She went on to have issues, as you can imagine. I believe she tried to take her own life, and I'm just to have to
And then
like
he just gets to be celebrated.
yeah, and like, is she gonna watch the Olympics? Probably not.
Right.
Like, what a way to taint something that people cherish.
I hope people find out about it. Everyone was so worked up in Paris about everything going on and they're all pooping in the river. I hope the river poopers focus their attention on this guy so that at the opening night, he just is booed or tomatoes
To
are thrown at him.
really
or something.
throw him off his game.
Just go Catbox style and shit in the sand.
So this in the news item took me by surprise when I first read about it. Let's go back to October 28th, 2023. We were all very sad to learn of the death of actor Matthew Perry, one of the stars of Friends TV show and the star of Fools Rush In. He was found dead in his hot tub at his Los Angeles residence at the age of 54. After conducting his autopsy, the medical examiner announced that he had died due to the acute effects of ketamine, which caused him to drown. This was unfortunately not all that surprising for people who knew about his struggles with drugs and alcohol. Matthew wrote a memoir that was published in 2022. In it, he shared all of his struggles. He was an alcoholic by the age of 14. He then got addicted to Vicodin after being prescribed it for a jet ski accident in 97. He went to rehab and then he relapsed multiple times. Anyone who watched Friends noted that in season 3, he was very thin. And according to his memoir, he had dropped to 128 pounds and was taking up to 55 Vicodin a day.
Ooh.
He was hospitalized in 2000 for alcohol-induced pancreatitis, and he continued drinking and doing drugs. And by 2018, he was hospitalized again for a gastrointestinal perforation, and this was caused by opioid use. And he was in a 2-week coma and needed a colostomy bag for nearly a year. Addiction is tragic, and unfortunately, like many people, it led to his death. So while his death due to drugs may not have been a surprise, it was a surprise for me to read recently that people are being investigated in his death. I'm not sure why this seems so novel to me. Maybe we just don't hear about it often, or it happens when you're rich and famous. But police went after those who provided Matthew the drugs. A few days ago, I saw a headline that said an actress was under investigation in his death. Then another article claimed that, quote, a number of individuals supplied him with ketamine and other drugs. Recently, the name of the actress surfaced. Brooke Mueller, Charlie Sheen's ex-wife, an actress and a former special correspondent on Extra, was named as one of the people that may have supplied Matthew Perry the drugs that ultimately took his life. A search warrant was served at her home last month, and she was not present at the time. We can assume the pair were friends. It's unknown what their specific relationship was at the time of his death, but we do know from an unnamed source that they met in rehab. This is very recent information, so I don't have any more than that, but I'm super curious what kind of charges will be filed against her and who else was involved and to what extent. This is one of the first times I've seen suppliers held accountable for a drug death, and I hope this extends to non-celebrities.
Yeah, it makes me think of that recent trial with the shooter's parents, the school shooter, the Crumbleys, how people are starting to realize we can't just punish or lose this one person. There's so much more to it. And so it's like, yeah, if you follow the drugs, then maybe you help someone else get help if they need it. Because if they're under arrest, maybe they end up going to rehab, or you go bigger and bigger and then you find the bigger suppliers.
Yeah. And I have read recently that the government is trying to crack down on suppliers, especially when they're like corporations that are not necessarily being illegal, but they're supporting illegal activity to bring drugs into the U.S. And I found that really interesting. I wonder if I don't know if that will continue to happen if we have a change in government, but
Right.
I found that interesting and interested to see if it works.
I was shocked to learn this, that part of that inquiry possibly came from his stepfather.
Huh.
Do you know who his stepfather is?
Keith Morrison.
It's Keith Morrison
which is one of our favorite people.
from Dateline. That blew my mind. I spiraled on that because I was like, wait, Keith Morrison wants stepson Matthew Perry's death investigate. What?
Yeah.
And he's been his stepdad since I think it said 82 or 81
I'm
or something.
smelling a new spin-off show.
Yeah, where he's going to
Busting
go after
people.
the drug people.
Mhm.
Yeah, that just that connection alone blew my mind. I'm like, wow, two huge people that I did not realize were connected. And then how interesting that he has this crime connection.
Yeah.
So he's like, actually, here's what we're going to do.
And he knows who to talk to and how to get it moving.
Yeah.
That's great. I'd like to see that extend to other people.
Between Matthew Perry's estate and family and Keith Morrison's business, they have the accessibility and the people and the knowledge and the funds that really could change things for
It really
people.
could.
For the better, hopefully.
Well, we have a few reminders for our listeners. This very weekend, July 12th through 14th, we're going to be in Denver, Colorado for the True Crime and Paranormal Podcast Festival held at the Denver Marriott Westminster. You can get your tickets at truecrimepodcastfestival.com and use code RAIN15 at checkout and get 15% off your tickets and come and see us.
Yeah. If you're over in that area, come on now.
Come on over.
We'll give you a sticker.
Come on over, baby.
You can buy some stickers. You can buy some shirts.
We have a couple of special edition shirts, assuming the package gets there.
Yeah.
And stickers for our world tour.
Yeah, that's right. Special edition stickers. We got books. We got us. What more do you want?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing more.
Well, if you can't make it to Denver or you're not in the area, you will have another chance to come see us here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. You can join us at this year's True Crime Fest Northwest, which will be at the Portland Sheraton from August 30th through September 1st. And you can get your tickets at True Crime Fest Northwest is spelled out, .com, and use the promo code RAIN10 for 90% on, as Josh would say. But same thing, we're going to have amazing vendors there and speakers, and I'm very excited for both of them. It's going to be awesome. So we'll see you there.
Or be square.
I will keep you posted in a future update.
my favorite. But I found this doctor who he prides himself on belly buttons. So I'm hoping I like it.
The things that come out of your mouth. I found a doctor who prides himself on belly buttons.
From Port Coquitlam near He became independently wealthy after he and his siblings sold most of the family's fig farm.
And that. Pigs and figs.
During this search, the issuing of a second warrant. The government's response to the national... The majority of the items have no known owner. Sorry. The majority of the items have no known owner. I can't say it.
That's an
owner.
impossible.
The majority of the
known
items
owner.
have no known owner.
You could say
No, I'm keeping it. I can't say it. Tell me about these Ren and Stimpy Mounties.
The song.
I don't know it as well as
Our
you.
country
Full
full
of
of
cheese?
trees.
Or
Our
trees?
yaks are really large and they smell like rotting beef carcasses. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The Royal Canadian Yaksman.
track runner Sha'Carri Jackson. Is it Sha'Carri?
Sha'Carri.
And you look at our American...
Richardson.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. Track runner Sha'Carri Jackson. Is it Sha'Carri?
Sha'Carri.
And you look at our American...
Richardson.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet.
I'm sorry, I was looking up that Austin Powers and Goldmember clip.
I literally just said it, though.
Well, so, segue.
About How are you going to segue?
I can't. I'm just going to
Segue.
start.
do a musical
No, we'll
interlude.
say Lako crime beat.
Lako crime beat.
They go crime beat.
Murder in the Rain is a Cascade Media production, written, hosted, and edited by Josh McCullough, Emily Rowney, and Alicia Holland. Feel free to email us at murderintherain@gmail.com or through our website, murderintherain.com. For as little as $1 a month, you can subscribe on Patreon to get exclusive access to ad-free and older episodes. For only $5, you can access Patreon-exclusive episodes and content. For more of us, be sure to follow on all the socials, listen to Josh and Alicia on their other show, Always Be My Sisters, and follow Emily on TikTok at @M_murderintherain. And suck my balls.